So the humanistic theory says that individuals have free will and that we can actively develop ourselves to our highest potential and reach self-actualization. So free will is an important word, and the term self-actualization is also another defining word in this theory.
Humanistic theory is a psychological perspective that arose in the mid-20th century in an answer to Sigmund Freud's psychoanalytic theory and B.F. Skinner's behaviorism theory. Thus it was referred to as the third force in psychology. The school of thought of humanistic psychology gained traction due to key figures, such as Abraham Maslow in the 1950s. Humanistic theory was made popular by the process of realizing and expressing one's own capabilities and creativity. Free will is defined as the power or capacity to choose among alternatives, or to act in certain situations independently of natural, social, or divine restraints. Free will is the idea that we are able to have some choice in how we act, and assumes that we are free to choose our behavior. For example, people can make a free choice as to whether to commit a crime or not, unless they are a child or they are insane. Whereas self-actualization is defined as the complete realization of one's potential and the full development of one's abilities and appreciation for life. This concept is at the top of the Maslow hierarchy of needs, so not every human being reaches it. Abraham Maslow describes self-actualization as the process of becoming everything you are capable of becoming.
So the primary difference between Freud's psychoanalytic theory and humanism is that Freud's theory was deterministic. So what I mean by that is that his theory says our behavior is determined by our unconscious desires. His theory also focuses on individuals who have these mental conflicts, and not all people. Now, the humanistic theory focuses on the conscious as opposed to the unconscious. And it also says that people are inherently good and that we are self-motivated to improve. And we want to always improve because we want to reach self-actualization.
The humanistic psychology perspective is summarized by 5 core principles. To begin with, human beings, as human, supersede the sum of their parts, meaning they cannot be reduced to components. Second core principle is that human beings have their existence in a uniquely human context, as well as in a cosmic ecology, meaning our lives are our own, though we are part of something greater. The third core principle says, human beings are aware and are aware of being aware, meaning we have a consciousness which always includes an awareness of oneself in the context of other people. The fourth core principle says that human beings have the ability to make choices and therefore have responsibility, meaning we are free to choose our own path and the consequences of which are ours to bear. The last core principle is that human beings are intentional, aim at goals, are aware that they cause future events, and seek meaning, value, and creativity, meaning that we have the capability to plan, create and design as opposed to just react to situations.
Now, the first major theorist of this theory was Abraham Maslow, and he formed the hierarchy of needs, which we can depict using a pyramid. So all of our needs are built upon each other in this pyramid. He says that we must first fulfill our physiological needs that form the base of the pyramid, and then we can work our way up. So after our physiological needs are met, our need for safety must be fulfilled, and then love, and then self-esteem, and lastly, self-actualization can be met. That sounds easy enough, right? We can all reach self-actualization.
It was through disagreeing with the predominant theories at the time, developed by Freud and Skinner, that allowed Maslow to identify the main points of humanistic theory. Maslow felt that Freud and Skinner's theories focused on individuals with mental conflicts rather than all individuals, hence the exceptions, and not the norm. Maslow felt the theories focused too much on the negative traits of human beings rather than focusing on the positive power that individuals have, such as making rational choice that has benefits. As such, when Maslow developed his theory, he decided to focus on the conscious and decided to develop a theory to explain how all individuals could reach their highest potential.
Well, what are some characteristics of self-actualizing people? Well, they must be self-aware, obviously. They are caring, they're wise, and their interests are problem-centered. They focus their energies on a task that's the mission of their life, and they have a higher purpose that's focused on larger causes and less about the basic aspects of life. So they don't focus on the basic aspects of life. They're always trying to strive and think broader and for larger causes. Well, I hate to be the Debbie Downer here, but self-actualization is rarely achieved. Maslow believed that only 1% of people ever reach self-actualization. The average person seeks to self-actualize, but may not ever get to that point. Geez. Well, looks like we all have something to work harder towards, huh?
A 1981 study looked at how Maslow's hierarchy might vary across different age groups. The researchers found that children had higher physical need scores than the other groups. The love need emerged from childhood to young adulthood. The esteem need was highest among the adolescent group. Young adults had the highest need for self-actualization level, and old age had the highest level need for security, though the need for security was needed across all age levels comparably.
Okay, let's talk about the second major theorist of this theory, and his name was Carl Rogers. Now, Carl Rogers used Maslow's idea and the qualities he described and says that they are nurtured early in life. He said that self-actualization is a constant growth process that is nurtured in a growth-promoting climate. So that's another very important word, growth-promoting climate. In this climate, in order for this climate to help someone reach self-actualization, there's two conditions that need to be met. And the first is that growth is nurtured by when an individual is being genuine. So one has to be open and revealing about themselves. They have to be genuine and true to who they are. And the second condition that needs to be met is that growth is nurtured through acceptance, and acceptance from others. So one must receive acceptance and receive an unconditional positive regard from others.
Rogers believed that the principles he was describing could be applied in a variety of contexts, and not just in the therapy situation. As a result, he started to use the term person-centered approach later in his life to describe his overall theory. Person-centered therapy is the application of the person-centered approach to the therapy situation. Other applications include a theory of personality, interpersonal relations, education, nursing, cross-cultural relations, and other helping professions and situations.
So what does that mean? For example, a parent may get upset at their child and punish them for doing something wrong, but they're going to still love their child and regard their child without any conditions, no matter what. So this allows us to be open and learn without fearing others are going to look at us differently if we do something wrong. And genuine relationships with others and acceptance is what allows us to live up to the ideals of our true, real self versus this ideal self that is bounded by conditions that people rarely can live up to. And both Maslow and Rogers said a central feature of our personality is self-concept. And that's achieved when we bring genuineness and acceptance together and achieve this growth-promoting climate.
Rogers had 5 hypotheses regarding learner-centered education. Hypothesis 1. A person cannot teach another person directly. A person can only facilitate another's learning. Meaning that everyone exists in a constantly changing world of experience in which they are the center. Each person reacts and responds based on perception and experience. As such, what the student does is more important than what the teacher does. Hypothesis 2. A person learns significantly only those things that are perceived as being involved in the maintenance of or enhancement of the structure of self. Meaning, the relevancy of what the student is learning is essential for learning. As such, students' experiences become the core of the course. Hypothesis 3. Experience which, if assimilated, would involve a change in the organization of self, tends to be resisted through denial or distortion of symbolism. Meaning, if the content or presentation of a course is inconsistent with preconceived information, the student is going to be hesitant to learn. Hypothesis 4. The structure and organization of self appears to become more rigid under threats and to relax its boundaries when completely free from threat. Meaning, if students believe that concepts are being forced upon them, they might become uncomfortable and fearful, resulting in a learning barrier. Hypothesis 5. The educational situation which most effectively promotes significant learning is one in which the threat to the self of the learner is reduced to a minimum and differentiated perception of the field is facilitated. Meaning, the teacher should be open to learning from the students, as well as working to connect the students to the subject matter.
So as individuals, we tend to act and perceive the world positively, and we try to answer the question, who am I? And that is what the humanistic theory talks about.